It started with a name that felt too ordinary to carry the weight it would eventually hold, Nolan Wells. And if I'm honest, that's what drew me in first. The unsettling contrast between the simplicity of who he appeared to be and the complexity of what would unfold, because I've learned that the most dangerous stories rarely announce themselves. They whisper, they blend in, they wait for someone curious or foolish enough to listen. And I was both, which is how I found myself tracing this case step by step, not realizing it would change how I saw truth, people, and even myself. Step 10, the least important but where my curiosity first sparked, was a passing mention. A small local headline buried beneath louder news, something about a missing timeline and inconsistencies that didn't quite add up, and I remember almost scrolling past it, almost choosing ignorance, but something about the phrasing lingered, like a loose thread I couldn't resist pulling. Step 9 was the surface story, the version everyone accepted at first glance. Nolan Wells, a seemingly ordinary figure with a routine life. Nothing remarkable, nothing suspicious, and yet that normalcy felt rehearsed to me, like a script performed too cleanly, and I began to wonder what had been edited out. Step 8 was the timeline, or more accurately, the gaps within it. I started mapping out events, noting where details blurred or disappeared entirely, and one evening, staring at a sequence that should have made sense but didn't, I realized the case wasn't about what was present, it was about what was missing. Step 7 was the people around him, the voices that shaped the narrative. Friends, acquaintances, fragments of interviews, each one consistent enough to seem truthful, yet distant enough to feel incomplete, and I began to notice how stories can align without ever truly connecting, like pieces from different puzzles forced into the same frame. Step 6 was contradiction. Small at first, times that didn't match, descriptions that shifted, but the more I looked, the more those contradictions multiplied, and I understood something critical. Truth doesn't fracture under pressure, but falsehood does, and this story was beginning to splinter. Step 5 was motive, the question that always lingers beneath the surface. I explored possibilities, not as accusations but as patterns, asking what pressures, fears, or desires could shape someone's actions, and I realized that motive isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, built slowly over time, invisible until it's too late. Step 4 was evidence, or the unsettling lack of clarity around it. The deeper I went, the more I saw how easily perception could be shaped, how details could be emphasized or ignored, and I began to question not just the case, but the systems and assumptions surrounding it. Step 3 was perspective. I stepped back and looked at the case as a whole, not as isolated details, but as a narrative, and what struck me most was how easily people, including myself, wanted a clean conclusion, a clear answer, something definitive, even if the truth resisted that simplicity. Step 2 was doubt. Not just doubt about Nolan Wells, but doubt about everything I thought I understood. I questioned my own interpretations, my own biases, realizing how quickly certainty can form without foundation, and how dangerous that certainty can be. And then there was step 1, the most important, the one that changed everything. Not the case itself, but what it revealed about me. Because in the end, this wasn't just about uncovering facts or solving a mystery. It was about confronting my own need for answers, my own discomfort with ambiguity, and my own tendency to fill in gaps with assumptions. As the case unfolded, or perhaps as it refused to fully unfold, I realized something I hadn't expected. Not every story resolves cleanly, not every question finds an answer, and not every truth is something we can hold in our hands. Some remain just out of reach, forcing us to sit with uncertainty, and that's what stayed with me long after the details faded. The understanding that growth doesn't always come from solving something, but from learning how to live without resolution, how to question without obsession, how to seek truth without forcing it into something convenient. Because in following the story of Nolan Wells, I thought I was chasing answers, but what I found instead was a deeper awareness of how I think, how I judge, how I believe, and that realization changed me far more than any conclusion ever could. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the Digital Mentor 777 via W.